Hey everybody, it's Garrett again. Haven't been posting too awful much. But one thing I thought would be a cool thing to post about, because I don't see a whole lot of stuff on YouTube about it, is I have been trying to find some reviews on either Facebook or basically anywhere on the internet on these. These are Richmond Brothers. I don't even know what you'd call them. Like, I wonder if there's an actual name on them. PR. No, not sure. But they are a chisel plow point, but it's designed like a ripper sweep or a ripper point. So the old conventional way of chisel plows, which a lot of you guys probably know, is your old school twisted shovels. These are obviously worn down. I mean, if you look along the back, I've only got a little bit sticking up the back there. They're going to be wearing into the bottoms of the shanks, so, and they've already been flipped once, so that's about how much is left. I mean, I could probably scoot them down a set of holes, but they would be cooked by the end of the year. I mean, they would be cooked well before the end of the year, honestly. So I figured I wanted to try these guys, because the thing with twisted shovels is how they work is they act exactly like what you think they would, a shovel or a sweep, basically a shovel. So dirt comes down, and a lot of farmers know the job they do. They scoop dirt from down here and sweeps it up, and it brings all that dirt from down underneath and throws it up on top. Well, if you're dealing with a lot of clay soils and low organic matter, which some spots I have that problem, some spots I don't have that problem, but I don't really I like breaking up the compaction. I don't necessarily like bringing up a bunch of dirt from underneath like that. So what these guys do is they'll break up the compaction, but they don't shovel the dirt right back up on top. It basically just lifts up everything like a normal disc ripper would. And so I'm going to try that this year and see how they do. Now I'll have a little video here of, me taking them off and putting them on, running the impact on them. Hopefully, I'm really hopeful I don't need the torch for any of these bolts, because, why waste torch gas when you have an impact? Yeah, considering I just replaced my torch, I just got my torch tank swapped, and that was like $150. So it's not cheap, not as cheap as it used to be. So, I'll have a clip of, it in the field. Honestly, if I was thinking, I would have had a clip ready for, chisel plowing, like the job that it does with a chisel plow. But there's lots of videos on YouTube that you guys can find of. There's lots of videos that you can find of guys chisel plowing and seeing exactly what a chisel plow does. Curling the dirt over top, and I call it the turd. Especially if it's kind of wet, it kind of leaves that little circle about yay big, and it just poops it right over on top of the soil and stuff like that. But with that said, I guess I got 10 of these guys. Disclaimer, I'm not being sponsored by them or anything like that. This is just to fill a hole in the YouTube farming space of something that I couldn't find when I tried to research it. So I guess I'm going to be the guy to put it on there today. These are, they're expensive compared to normal twisted shovels. I can't remember exactly how much the twisted shovels were, but I can probably guess that they weren't $100 a pop. Those were $100 a piece from the dealer that I got them. But they are made in America. They're made here right in Michigan. They're actually made within an hour of where I live. So that's pretty cool that they're locally sourced, and they build farm equipment and cool stuff like that for sugar beet guys and tillage guys and all the stuff like that. So I'll stop blabbering and get changing sweeps. Oh, I got my 3/4 inch socket on my impact. Gotta get the that I just had out. There we go. Pick those up when I'm done. There's 2 bolts that hang on here. Try not to push on the bolt too hard, because what happens is if you push too hard, it comes out of its little carriage slot up top, and then you got to hold it down with your finger. If you don't push on it, it'll stay nice and snug in the front of the plow point. Like that one popped up, see? And then when you hit it with the impact, it goes spin, spin. So now I got to use 2 hands and operate this old girl. How do I do this while holding the camera? Nope, not happening. Pause. Another trick I can do is I took the other bolt out, got it the rest of the way out, and I'm just taking my hand and I'm just pushing up on this, or I can push down on it and let gravity do the work for me. And as long as you've got pressure on that bolt head to keep it locked in that square hole, not like that. As long as you've got pressure on it, you should be able to spin her off that way. Really had to yank on her, but she came. All right. Let's try this one without doing what we did last time. I suspect that one spun. Yep. Well, I'll get all the ones that I can easily get with you guys in my hand. Well, I got a couple of them off, so I decided before I get too carried away on the other ones, I'll take this opportunity to slap a couple of these on and see what they look like on the plow itself. Because why not? See if I can line the bolts up as I'm dropping them in. There's 1. There's 2. Oh, dude. It's either going to pull like an absolute bear, or she's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I guess it's kind of how it goes with anything, right? So, yep. The bolts, I personally chose, and I probably could have gone with smaller because I wasn't 100% sure what to go with. These are 3-inch, so 1/2-inch bolts by 3 inches long. They have a hex casted in to the plow point itself, so you don't have to use plow bolts, because plow bolts are nice, but they do wear out. The tops can wear off, and like you saw over there, they come off. They can sometimes come off hard, so like this is kind of a slick idea. Or, well, if it works, it's a slick idea. If it doesn't work, then, poo on them. But same thing, got 3/4 inch impact, put her on the tightening, and you shouldn't have to hold anything, and you just buzz. I've got flange nuts on here. The other bolts that I had, I didn't have flange nuts on. Highly recommend flange nuts, because typically on these, they're a little bit wore and a little bit wider at the bottom, because this bottom hole is typically slotted. I don't know why. I'm not sure why they did that. I don't know enough about chisel plows to give you a good answer, but with that bottom hole being kind of slotted, there's been situations where I've had to stick a washer if I didn't have quite the right bolt on there, and that one got rounded off when I tried to pull it off because it got wore or something along those lines. So it's just kind of one of those things you think about after you do it a couple times. flange nuts are kind of the way to go when it comes to these. This, I could have easily gone with a 2.5 inch. I'd rather be too long than too short, I guess. That is mean. I mean, that is mean. One thing I do kind of like about these, considering that they were $100 a pop, is that is an extreme amount of metal thickness there for a chisel plow point. Like, that in every instance should last a stupid long time. Hopefully it does, because I really don't want to buy these again for a little while, especially if they don't work. So, but it is what it is, and I'll keep on going. Those ones should be tight. I already did those. But you can check them all. So this is what she looks like with all the points on. I mean, that's, I ain't gonna lie. For a chisel plow, that's pretty freaking mean. All we gotta do is just tighten them all up now. The only other thing I gotta do is place a couple hoses, make sure it's greased up, and she should be good to go. I mean, she's not in a pristine condition of a chisel plow, so I mean, don't knock me too much. It does its job when it needs to. So, but I'll make sure I throw a clip of it working so I can see the difference one to the other. Alrighty, so it is a few days later. I did some tinkering, I did some adjusting on the settings. I had to change some things to make it work right, so I had to change some things around so I get the plow to work what I think is right. But I got the tractor warming up right now. I was gonna do a little demonstration run for you, but so there's a couple things. I had to change the depth. I had to take the pin that was through this hole, put it to this hole so I could get it deeper. Because what was happening is the points would basically float on top of the surface. It would, like, not the surface, but it would get down to the hard pan about 6-8 inches down, and then it would basically just kind of skate on top of it. And so it wasn't quite enough to get through the hard pan, so I had to add these weights on there. But then once I added the weights on, which that was a task all in itself, I added some weight so it actually sink down in and start hooking good and hooking into the dirt. But once I got it hooking into the dirt, it wasn't all the way through the hard pan, so it kind of defeated the purpose of breaking the hard pan. So I moved the depth adjustment to where I could actually get it all the way down through the hard pan. So I'm probably in the 10 to 12 inch range, which is probably more than this chisel plow should be going. But when I did that, my adjustment arm for the cylinder to raise and lower it ended up going past center, and so I had to weld stoppers in. And I mean, forgive me for my real garbage welds, but I literally just learned how to start welding like a month ago maybe. But anyway, I welded on those stoppers. Originally I had the stoppers down there, and then I found out that that was a pipe, so whenever it would stop there, it would actually bend the pipe. So I had to move them up here to where they were on solid metal. So those were the adjustments that I had to make. I've got a stopper on each side, so that's as far as it can go as far as the lift goes. And actually, I probably should have scooted that back just a little bit more, but it is what it is. But at least it's not bending that pipe anymore, and it almost gets all the way out of the ground. It's right on the edge of it. Tickles the dirt a little bit now, because I can't. It doesn't push all the way out of the ground to make it come all the way out of the ground. It's like right just at the edge of it. And then in order for me to go deep enough, I have to, keep it low like that. So, but I'll show you what I discovered with the 200 when I have these all the way down and to the depth that I wanted at. As you can see, they're right close to the dirt the way they sit right now. I mean, when I get going through the stubble, the bean stubble and the trashing the chopper and stuff like that, it'll actually kind of grab some of the stuff from the chopper. But we're gonna come over to the edge of this field over here and go along this side. That's what happens. She either spins out because she's not heavy enough, or when she does finally get some traction, it's a little greasy. That's half the problem, but it's a little bit muddy. We've had a very, very, very wet year. But yeah, that's the problem. It's either too wet, and when I finally do get enough traction, it just doesn't have enough power to do it. I mean, it buckled her right down. I tried going in a lower gear, but second gear on these old 200s don't exactly, some of them popped out of gear. This is one of them. So I have to hold the shifter back with everything I got to keep it in gear. And even then she'll start spinning. So it's kind of one of those, I just don't have quite enough traction to run when I'm pulling. So I got a remedy to that. That is my remedy to the chisel plow problem and the culti mulcher problem. 200's kind of on the edge when it comes to the culti mulcher too. I can't run more than third high with it. But with that said, I picked up a 7050. There was a guy a couple towns over that had one for sale, and he had it for a pretty reasonable price, so I jumped on it. It's got the cab on it, you know. I can get the heat and air working. If it's not, I haven't checked to see if the heat or air is working. I know the blower works, but he said one of the AC lines were blown, so he hasn't been able to charge it. But with that said, 150 horse. It's got the 426 in it with an intercooler. It should be more than enough to pull the stuff that I have here. I also picked up a 25-foot field cultivator versus my 18-foot, which I pulled with the 200. 200 did great with the 18-footer. That was perfect for it. But I had the 200 turned up to probably 120 to 130 horse, and it was kind of like I didn't want to go too much more than what was there already. And I also knew that I didn't have a cab, so I couldn't really do anything more with GPS or anything than I needed to. You know, like I was kind of on the limits of everything I needed to go. So this is going to be the replacement for the 200. So we'll see how that does on the chisel plow and see if I run into traction problems or if this thing's got enough weight to do what I need to do. I've got a feeling I'm going to have to play musical tires to have enough traction to pull the Richmond Bros sweeps. But it's a good start for what I'm going to need. So this is the job that it's doing. I kind of like it. It takes a lot more power, a lot more traction, but what I've noticed is that the ridges are not nearly as pronounced as with the normal chisel plow shovels. It's getting down really nice and breaking up compaction. One thing I don't super care for, but I think it's just part of the hard pan problem, is you need a little bit of extra weight on the chisel plow to get down through the plow pan. When you get down through it, it sucks it down great, but it takes a second to really get down through it. But I mean, she's giving this tractor everything she wants in 8 to 10 inches deep. I'm not running it at a foot like I wanted it to, but So as you can see here, these plow furrows are not nearly as deep. They're only maybe, oh, that's probably 2 foot wide at the most. This is probably 18 inches wide, but they're not crazy deep. It doesn't bring up as much of the soil from underneath. It basically just kind of lifts it a little bit, but you're still bringing up these hard pieces like this. I mean, that is hard. This is really hard. But that's what I wanted to get that stuff lifted and broken up without necessarily bringing up a bunch of clay from underneath. So I like what I see. It's just a matter of I need more weight on the tractor. I mean, she still spins a little bit. I've got the clamp-on duals on. I had issues with it. I was putting so much power on the clamp-on duals that I actually spun and broke one of them. It wasn't quite, I don't know if it wasn't quite tight enough or what, but it twisted off one of the hooks and loosened up one of the other ones. This one looks like it probably could be tightened, but she's hanging on for right now, so I'll keep on going. But with that said, this is the job that it's doing, and I like it. I guess the verdict will be out when come spring on how she works down, because that's ultimately what I wanted to do. Is I wanted to make sure I wanted to be able to work around in the spring a little bit less in order to get rid of some of the plow furrows and stuff like that. If I can eliminate one pass in the spring, I would be just tickled pink by that. So thanks again, guys, and these are the Richmond Brothers points, and this is my review of them. Thanks.